Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. Tonight we're going to be doing some engine work. Finally, I've got some bearings and bits and pieces. They've all been measured up, done all the research I need to do and what have you, because well, when we get into it I'll explain exactly a bit about this. Oh, actually, fuck it, I'll do it now. FZ6 engine. The bearings I pulled out of here had a green and a yellow paint mark. Now these are bearing sizes are identified by a paint mark. Anyone who's built a Yamaha engine before will know this. And you basically get the measurement. You're doing a small calculation as to what bearings you need by some numbers on the crankcase and some numbers on the crank as well, and you do a small equation, and then that gives you your size, and you then cross-reference that to what colour bearings you need. Very simple system to use if you've got the right numbers. This crank has some really weird numbers that yeah, it is not normal, and I couldn't identify the bearings. So I don't know quite what the case is with this engine, but the fact of the matter is we needed bearings. Now this is a 5SL engine. These are 5EB bearings. They are different by part number, but these fit and match up. Basically what I had to do, James at Super Finishings UK, he was very kind and sent me a set of bearings that were, I think, the largest size, or second to largest size as in looseness, and then basically I just had to plastic gauge them and get the readings. Now I have done the plastic gauge for all four, and we've come back at 0.045, which I'll show you in the book in a minute. Right, yeah, so sorry about that. I don't want to get the bottom of this on any here because I've cleaned this now, and it took me quite a bit of time to get all the swarf off of it, so you know I want to make sure no more gets on it. Bear in mind that's a magnet, isn't it? So right, okay, our tolerances are here. Big end oil clearance, you can see that and get the right light on it. Shadow of my camera is in the way, but there, big end oil clearance. Right, we got 0.028 to 0.052 millimeters is the tolerance. Obviously the 0.52 is the biggest gap that they'll tolerate, and 0.028 is the tightest gap. Now our gaps run in at 0.045. How I got this measurement was, if you use this magical stuff here, I mean, anyone who's built engines before will know about this stuff. It's a must-have. Plastic gauge. Right. Now, basically, what it is a really small bit of plasticine, specific size, and you chop a little bit off, and you put it along the face of the bearing. Obviously, not where there's an oil journal or anything like that. You know, where there's a clear flat face across the bearing journal, and then you bolt on your cap with your bearings in, torque it to spec, do all the procedure, you know. So if it's with these in particular, they are, it's like 15 Newton meters and then 90 degrees. Right, so you do the full steps, and then you back it off, take the cap back off, and then that plasticine would have splurged out, would have squished out, and then you measure it. Right, so you got this gauge here. I have got other sizes of plastic gauge, thicker and thinner, but I went with the middle of the range because I knew what sort of target range I was going for. So we come out, all four bearings will come out, you know, matching this thickness. So we're at 0.045. So big shout out to James at Super Finishings UK. If you need if you want your engine relined or any machine work or anything like that, give him a shout. I'll try and leave like some sort of link in the description for his Facebook or company or something like that. I mean, I've only got his personal mobile number, and obviously I'm not about to go and give that out to you. So, but he is contactable. He is very much, like I say, willing to help out anyone that needs engines relined. Like, you know, say these crack liners, not the 5SL, obviously the 5EB. So it's like we're both known on the Facebook R6 groups as I'm the one who does the 5SL conversions and he's the one who does the relining. So depending on what route you go down is who you'll meet and talk to. So that's that. We're going to get cracking on with this now. Going to give it a bit more of a clean up, and then we're going to get on with it. You may have noticed, just quickly, the gearbox is out. I've got to put that back in because I had a problem with another 5SL with a gearbox issue, which I thought might need some bits. So I took the gearbox out of this. Ended up being it was a simple fix, didn't need any parts. So I've got all the parts for this, got to put them back in. But that's it. Right guys, let's get on with this engine, shall we? This is the other day from the intro part of the video. I've cleaned everything down with brake cleaner. I've got all the bits that I need, well, yeah, all the bits that I need for the gearbox all laid out. I'm going to do the gearbox first. Now, this is going to be a more educational tutorial type video. I'm a little ill prepared for it, so please forgive me if I do find that I have to take something out and put something back in or what have you. Especially with the gearbox side of things, because I haven't done them for quite a while. That being said, I'm not going to time lapse any of this video because, like I say, I'm hoping that you're watching this video, you know, thinking about tackling it yourself, or have started tackling it yourself and got stuck somewhere and are looking for the answer. So I'm not gonna, like I say, time lapse anything. We're just gonna go from there. I'll try and give you the best camera angles I can, try and, you know, show you it to the best of my ability, detail of what's going on. So we'll go from there, shall we? Let's get you set up. Let's do this. Right, so first things first, you need a few bits for your gearbox. You need your selector barrel, you need your selector forks, and you need your selector rods that the forks run on, and the first cluster of gears of the main shaft. Well, no, it's not the main shaft, is it? Is it intermediate shaft? I don't know. Shaft. So, first thing to do with this is you want to pop in this this shaft, right? So now it's tight on this bearing. These have to be a certain way around. See this nipple thing, weird thing here? That's got to line up with it. So you pop that in. Alright. Now that won't want to go home. Oh shit. Right. Why is that not lining up? Come on. So not quite right there. Oh, hang on. Apologies, I was incorrect. Doesn't go like that. That's why it wasn't fitting on. See, I told you I haven't done this for a while. The holes are eccentric, so it'll only fit one way, which is that way. Right, so what we've got to do is give that a bit of a bash, because it is this bearing's sort of a bit of an interference fit. When you remove this, you've got to wind 2 bolts into these and pull them out evenly. So just knock this in. Goes in fairly easily, well, very easily, should we say. Loctite, and they're also centre punched on the edge to sort of peen the edge, because we do not want these coming out, because they're inside the engine and also behind the clutch basket. So, oh shit, where did that go? So if any of them come out, it's catastrophic. We just need to line them bolt holes up a bit. Bit of Loctite on there. Right, okay, the torque setting for these is 12 Newton meters. Which isn't very tight, which is why they need to be Loctited and peened. Now that seemed tight, but what it was doing was actually just seating this, because I literally just nipped these bolts up until they'd gone home, so you know, it was just finding actual proper home. So to you it looks like it's turning that bolt for a long time and tighter, but it's actually not. Centre punch and a hammer. Now on the very edge of this bolt here, you just want to knock her in. Just give her a punch so that it locks it in place. So next we need to fit the centre, no, that's the left one, the centre fork, because otherwise you can't get it in. Now, well, you half fit it. Now you identify these forks by saying C on there for centre, and then you've got an L for left and an R for right. They will say a mixture of 5SL, 5EB. Don't worry about that, I don't know why Yamaha do that. But either way, you want the one with centre on it. It runs in this groove here, so it flicks these gears from one side to the other. Alright, now these I believe are 5th and 6th gear. That, you want the nipple facing upwards, stick her on there, and it goes down into the depths there. Now don't put the rod in yet, because if you put the rod in, you then can't get this in. So this will go in next. Gotta slide this through this hole. Now this isn't an interference fit, this will just drop in. Now you want to get the fork in line with the centre groove of this thing. It doesn't matter where, just as long as you can get it in there. Now I find the best way to do it is either a really small magnet or a set of picks. And you just want to pick it up and get it to drop into that groove of the selector fork, selector barrel, and then you get your selector gear selector rod here, and you want to just slide it through, make sure there's springs on each end, and you just want to wiggle jiggle until you get it through the selector rod. So, fuck's sake, selector fork, slide her all the way in, that's set. Now with these, right and left, left and right, you've got to remember the engine's upside down. So right is left and left is right. So I do believe that's the case anyway. Right, okay, so on with fitting the rest of these forks, you also need this. Don't lose this for your main gear set, because it locks it in place. I only say that because it's just taken me about 10 minutes to find that one. Now these forks, you want to place them pretty much in here. What I said about left being right and right being left, completely ignore, because the engine isn't, it's not it's not flipped upside down, it's upside down, but it's still the right way around in terms of orientation. So ignore my stupidness. So basically you want to stick the forks in, left is left, right is right, just poke them into the grooves for now, because then what you want to do is get your rod, slide your rod through and actually attach them. Alright, so they're now flapping in the wind and they're both locked into that drum down there. Now you want to get your half a circlip, whatever you want to call it. It goes into this groove here and basically it locks into the bearing on the shaft, so that, you know, it don't move side to side. Now another thing to note on this pack here, pack of gears, on this bearing you've got a roll pin poking up out. There's a groove for it, or a little gap for it there. Make sure it's in there, because if it's obviously in this face it will dig into the face, or you won't be able to close the casing up properly. So make sure that that is in the right place. Now fitting these, alright, keep that to the back side. You want to locate your, sorry about that, you want to locate your selector forks. They should just drop in pretty much with a bit of a wiggle. Now the same to get this to sit down, don't force it down, especially when you have the whole thing out, you know, the whole gearbox out. It's got to find its way, right? So just give her a wiggle until she's all sitting down. Wiggle the gears about and it will just drop down. Now I need to just move that pin ever so slightly so it sits in that groove all the way into it. You want to make sure that that is in that groove. You do not want that causing any interference. It will pretty much ruin your casing if you fuck that up. So that's gearbox as good as in. Now, so these bits here are the ends of the selector rods, and this bracket here does two things. It, one, keeps those in place and also keeps this selector drum in place. Now again, these bolts need Loctite. So we're going to dump some of that on there. And we shall fit this. It is a pain because you're working against springs, but they're not that strong. And the thing's cut in a way so that you can kind of push it round the selector fork once you've got one bolt in. So it's not too bad. Yamaha did actually think about it. A small bit of Loctite. They're tight and they're nice. So forget the torque. I'm wary of talking small threads, especially with this torque wrench, because, you know, I don't think the low down stuff does very well. Don't know why, but it seems to be anything more than anything less than a M8 bolt, it just feels like it's just gonna tear it, and I don't like it. So there's that part in there. Now this is the bit where I mentioned earlier I might end up getting it wrong and taking bits back out, so I can't remember how this stuff goes. or how you put it in. So this is your basically a rocker that acts on this shaft and gives you the clicking feeling. Now on this shaft you'll notice that this is a star shape, but one of the corners, or one of the edges, points of the star has been shaved off, and that is your neutral position, I believe. So what we want to do is hook up this spring. I'm going to get this in there, slide that in there. It's easiest just to hook it into the neutral position while you've got it there. I'm going to get a pick, just hook this spring over this bobbin that's in here. Missed. There we go. That's on there like that. That puts tension on that. Okay. And now the selector shaft, which is the part where your external selector rod fits to, slides over, and you want, this is a spring, twin acting spring. This brass stud here, you want going in between this. Alright, so we slide that on and over. And what this is doing is it's locking, it's picking up on these studs here. Alright, so these hooks are picking up on these studs, and that's what actually gives you your gear selection. So you just want to hook it over one of well, eventually it will. If you just play around with the gears until it does go together, there you go. Now what we can do is, if we just temporarily fit this cover, I'm going to get a pair of mole grips, and we're just going to make sure that the engine goes through the gears. Do. Find a couple of bolts, just wondering. Right, okay. So, we just need to check through the gears. I have just done it off a camera just to make sure I haven't been an idiot and got anything wrong. And it's fine. So we're in neutral at the moment. Alright, I can hold one shaft and spin the other. Alright, everything moves, everything spins. Now this is first gear. Alright, so click into first gear. Now both shafts spin. Alright, and you'll notice that very minimal movement on this will result in lots of movement on this. Hence first gear. Okay. It is actually the other way around of the engine. Yeah, it's because I'm spinning this is the output shaft, so it is actually reversed. So there's lots of movement on this to minimal movement on here. First gear. Then we flick over to second. And and this one moves out and this one moves in. We have second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. And the further you go through the gearbox, the easier it is to turn. So first gear, it's hard to turn, it's quite a bit of resistance. Sixth gear, easy. And that is the gearbox in. So all we've got to do, which I will do off camera, is take this cover back off and just put the gasket back on it and bolt it back up. And then we can get on with this, you know. Right, so on with the important bit, the bit we should be getting on with. Now, this is going to be a long video, guys. I do apologise. So I do understand that, you know, the only people watching this are the people that are going to be needing to watch this. So basically, I've put all the new bearing shells in the rods already. Now there's a few things we need. We need a can of oil. This has got the right oil for the bike's engine, or for the engine in it. I put all the bearing caps in the I put all the bearings in the caps as well, apart from the last one, so I just want to show you how it's done. Now obviously you just want to make sure that it's completely clean. Now on these bearings they have 2 grooves, on the cap, sorry, they have 2 grooves, and on the bearing they have 1 notch. Now what you want to do is put that notch in first. You just want to hook it into that and try and keep it level. I have to take the bolts out. Keep it level with this face. So what I do is once it's in there and lined up, I then hold it with my thumb, just push it in from the other side. Right, and just squeeze together like that. And that is your bearing cap in. Now the engine is sideways to me, right way for you, sideways to me, so it might be a little bit difficult for me, but I'd rather do it this way, to be honest. Now first things first, before we even pick up the crank, we just want to put a bit of oil on each of these bearings. It just helps with, you know, the build itself, and it also helps the initial startup as well. You know, the bearings won't be completely dry. These engines don't have thrust washers. They just don't. This part of the block here is separately machined, as opposed to the rest of these journals. So it's kind of a inbuilt thrust washer kind of scenario. Now I want to be careful when we lay this down. Am I going the right way? Yes. Just want to slowly guide her in. There we go. She sat down. Now we want to get the pistons and rods and just pull them up. The engine was this way around, so this will be the first cap. So we want to do these 2 first. So this is the second one, and they have markings on them, and these are cracked to split them. You know, they're machined with score marks in them. Then they're split, so they would only go on one way, and that is that. So what we need to do is just splurge more oil, just a small amount, get some into the oil gallery hole as well if it's accessible. Tighten her up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this one, and then I'm probably going to time lapse the rest of it. I know I said I wouldn't do any time lapse, but this video is going to be long, so for the sake of your own sanity and mine, I'm going to do this one, and then that'll be that. I'll put you on time lapse for the rest. And then I'll take you back off at time lapse when it comes to putting the cover back on, so you know you won't miss any of that. Right, so you want 15 Newton meters plus 90 degrees on these. So I get my torque wrench 20, back it off 5, there. It's a 12-sided 10mm for the 5SL engine, because it's a bolt, not a stud and nut. On the 5EBs they're a stud and nut, and it's just a normal 10mm or 11mm. I think it's 10. So clickety click, clickety click. See, that found 15 Newton meters easy then with the wider, you know, the thicker shanked bolt, whereas the small little M6 ones, it just does not want to do it. You know, it just feels like it's going to snap it and tear the thread out, or rip the head off the bolt or something. So then we want 90 Newton meters, not Newton meters, 90 degrees. Now you can have a degree gauge, but if you're not a complete and utter fucking idiot, you should be able to work out simple angles like 90, 180, 270, stuff like that, right? So what you want to do is get as horizontal as possible. This is a very fine tooth ratchet, so I can get pretty much bob on every single time, and it's basically 90 degrees. That wants to come down to me at 6 o'clock. So as long as you don't orientate this, you know, go back for another wrap on the ratchet, you'll have the right angle. Angle of the dangle. And that's that one set. So we're going to do that with the rest of them, and then I'll put you back on when, you know, all that jazz. Actually, I won't do a time lapse just to save some time on this video, so I'll put you back on when we're ready to put the cover on. Lower crankcase. Right, okay, that's that done. They're all torqued and set the correct degrees, and the cover is now ready. Well, the bottom, I don't know what I call cover. The bottom of the crankcase, lower crankcase, is now ready to go on once we've done some of this. You will notice that the engine side of it and the gearbox side of it are completely not connected at the moment, but we'll get to that. So I bought this from Halfords because I keep forgetting to order some. So Halfords is my normal place to go to buy supplies. Look at this. I can't even get the end on it, so you know, that's fucking bloody good. So I'm just going to have to do it a little bit by little bit with our fingers. It's good to spread it out anyway, but basically we just want a coating of sealant around the outside face of the engine. Very thin coating. Now you'll notice here is like oil gallery ways and things like that. You don't want to go anywhere near those. They're all internal of the engine anyway, so even if oil does leak on that part, it's only going to leak back into the engine. So This has got a special groove here for it to run, for some sealant to run into. Alright. Try and keep it out of your bolt holes as much as possible as well. Right. Now we're ready. That's inside of the engine anyway. Yeah. Right, so we are now ready for our crankcase. Here we have our lower crankcase. Now, I've left all the bolts in situ, so I know where they all go. You can just dangle them on there, because this should just drop on. You know, you shouldn't have to force this in any way. Now, I am forgetting one step, which is oil. And be careful when you're oiling this, because you don't want to get too much onto the actual journals, if at all. You know, these flat faces. So fill up the oil hole, small coating. On the crank journals. Then we get our cover. And it just sits on like that when you got it right. So we'll start by just literally tightening these main end cap bolts by hand. Right, so what I've done is I've wound in all the bolts by hand, including the 10 mils. The 10 mils you don't really need to wind in by hand, but just make sure you don't, you know, impact them home or anything like that. So now that the case is down a little bit more, it will loosen back up, but it doesn't matter. Right, so we've got to tighten these. Now the main cap bolts are 24 Newton meters, and there is no degree setting or anything like that afterwards. It's just straight 24 Newton meters. So we shall go to 24 Newton meters. Now they are numbered, actually printed into the block, into the casing. So no need for diagrams or anything like that. Strictly do follow the numbers. They are there for a reason, and the reason is to allow this to apply its pressure down evenly and not crack or anything like that. So do as told. So we'll torque all these up. That's 2. Number 3. You'll think, oh, that doesn't feel that tight, but you know, just leave it. That is what they are. Five, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now what you want to do is just go around them again, not to get any more purchase on them unless it wants to go, but just see if it will click out without moving. So there you go, that 1, 10. Now there are some other 12mm headed bolts. They are to be torqued to 14 Newton meters, and the other ones are to be, and the rest of them are 12 Newton meters. Now, as explained with my torque wrench, doesn't wanna. These 12mm bolts are very thin. They're like an M6 shank, so we're going to be doing these up by hand. So I shall do that, and then I'll get you back on to this video. Now, there is a big washer that goes on first onto this shaft. Do not forget that. Alright. Just throw that on the floor. Now, this is quite simple to fit, but some people can struggle, especially if you do not know the knack. You have the oil pump chain on the back of this. It's quite hard to get it on one-handed. There we go. Right, so she's on. Now you just want to keep some tension on it. That's fallen off already. You want to put this in at an angle because the hole's too small for it. Alright. And then you run. Oh, that's gone well, hasn't it? Right. There. Chain on. Bring it up through here. Chain's still on. Lovely. Press the chain into the guides. Now this is the bearing. Alright. What we want to do, get a little bit of oil on this needle roller bearing. Just help it go in a hell of a lot easier. Now you want to pop this in, and this has to be first out as well, otherwise you just haven't not got the space to get this clutch basket out. That'd help if I lined it up. These outer teeth line up with the teeth in the crankshaft, connecting the basket to the crankshaft. And it's just a case of a bit of jiggery pokery until that slides in. You might have to do one at a time. Like so. There we go. She is in. Right, okay, oil pump. I'm going to be finishing this off soon, guys, because it's going to be an incredibly long video. And my camera battery is dying. So I'm not going to do like all the sump going back on and the covers and stuff like that, but I will show that in the end result of the engine. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fit this oil pump quickly, and we'll go from there. We shall go from there. That's pretty much done. We can call it a video. So we need our oil pump. This has got dowels that it sits on. So the dowels need to be pushed into place. Now the first thing in is the oil pump, so you want to pick up your chain, hook it around into the oil pump. There is no tensioner or anything, it just literally hooks on. By the time the oil pump's in place, the chain is of adequate tension. Just push the dowel down into the hole, and that keeps the oil pump in place. Now you have a bolt with pipe on it. This is some sort of pickup or something or other, I don't know. Breather, overflow, something. But that goes on there. in that bottom one. And just tighten that up. And get the other two oil pump bolts. Drop them in there. These aren't Loctited, but they're really deep long threads, so I would imagine they're perfectly fine. This pipe joins the oil pump to the rest of the engine. Two short Allen key bolts there. Then we have our oil accumulator. I think it's accumulator. Oh no, it's pressure relief valve, sorry. Oil pressure relief valve. That goes on there, just literally sits in there like that. And then finally we have our oil pickup pipe. And the easiest way to put these on is actually put the rubber on first, because then it actually goes all the way into the thing. These 5SL ones have got this little guard over, that just pops in there like that, and then it's ready for the sump. But I'm going to clean all this off first, which obviously I won't be doing for you guys. So on to the next clip where we're all done and the outro. Right, so here we are. We're all built up now. We've got our oil cooler on, we've got our sump on, we've got our stator cover on. It's pretty much ready to go now, bottom end wise. Right, so we've got a big washer with some grooves on it, both sides. So that one's to go on first. Then you've got the other part of your clutch basket. That needs to go on. Put that onto the spline. And now you've got this little washer here. It's like a lock washer. You've got these two tabs facing this way, and they go into these two bits here, two grooves there. So you want to pop that on, and you want a bit of Loctite. Now there is a torque setting for this nut, which is only 70 Newton meters. It's not tight. Oh, that's a bit too much Loctite. You don't need much Loctite, definitely not that much. On any bolt, not just here. So I'll wipe some of that off. There we go. Right. Loctite's just a precaution as well, because obviously you've got the lock washer behind it. So yeah, like I say, 70 Newton meters. You need a special tool to hold this still. I haven't got it. I've always used a gun, and I've never once had one come off or come loose. I know that 70 Newton meters is tight, but it's not that tight. So what we do is we'll get a screwdriver, just hold this still as best we can. What we want to be doing is just basically lining the tab up with a flat side of here. Bearing in mind as well, if you do torque that to 70 Newton meters, that might not quite be the case. There we go. Yeah, so don't lever off of these, because they will snap very easily. They're just a post for a bolt, so do not, only this face, but even so, don't go mental. Right, so without that done, that's secure. Now we're on to our clutch pack. Pretty simple with a clutch pack, so I'm just going to explain it. You want a metal disc first, because this is aluminium in here, so it's metal, friction, metal, friction, metal, friction, all the way out, and you want a friction one on last. So also, if it's a new clutch, you want to soak it in oil for a good couple of hours. This has been sitting in an oily bucket of parts for Christ knows how long since I stripped the engine. Okay, with that being on there like that, you then get your clutch end plate, the pressure plate. Put your little bobbin thing through there, the spline, you know, the ones we have so much fun with whilst fitting the clutch up. Now you want these teeth to engage with this so it pushes down further and goes actually pushes onto the clutch. If you don't do that, then you'll have no clutch. And there we have it. So there we go. That's bottom end complete. We've replaced the shells. We should be good to go. It does look a little bit grimy on the camera. It does have some embedded dirt in it, but for the most part it's clean, it's good, and ready to rock and roll. So I'm going to put a couple other little bits on off camera. I'm not going to put this cover on yet because obviously I'm going to be putting a head on it, but we need to build that first. So with all that being said, thank you if you've made it this far, and please do like and subscribe. That would be awesome. And the next video of engine build series, I'm going to be stripping the head. I've got a few around, so I don't know which one I'm going to do yet, but with all that being said, I'm going to cut the video now because it's been very long anyway. And if you are still here, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you very much. Cheers. Goodbye.